All right, welcome to The Pulse, brought to you by American National Bank and Trust. I'm Henry Florsheim, President and CEO of the Wichita Falls Chamber of Commerce. We are streaming live this afternoon on Facebook on both the Chamber's Facebook page and Texoma's homepage, also on our LinkedIn page and our YouTube channel, and I think on MySpace and an old AOL chat room that's still running. We're also going to be rebroadcast every Sunday afternoon at 5:30 on KJTL Fox 18. My guest today, Mayor of Wichita Falls, Stephen Santellana. Mayor, thanks for joining us today. You having fun yet?
This is awesome.
So what's the last 6 weeks been like for you?
Man, I've had a lot of people ask me that question, and I would like to say, the nice political question is I've been doing my job, doing my duty, but it's been crazy. It's a strange time. Everybody keeps saying that. It's a strange time that we're living in, and I will reflect that 100%. It's been long days. The first 2 or 3 weeks were 14, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, trying to just gather information. But it's been tough. It's been long. But with that, I've really enjoyed working with the community. This is one of the first times that I've been able to work with everybody in the community daily. We do that a lot individually, but this has been pretty neat to see this many people. You and I are on conference calls all the time, working with Shepherd, MSU, all the community leaders on conference calls, trying to do with one goal, trying to do the best thing for the health of our community. And it's been neat, but it's been a long, 6 weeks seems like 6 years. And I think you feel the same way. Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. This morning, I post a little quick stupid video every morning, and I keep updating how long we've been on lockdown. And yeah, 42 days. That's 6 weeks. That is hard to believe, because part of me feels like we just started this. And then part of me feels like, and I think my wife feels this way, that we've been doing this for a year and a half, and it's ridiculous, and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
So how's your family holding up?
We're holding up all right. I think me as a teacher for homeschool is not working out very well. No matter how intelligent you think you are, you have to start diving into sixth grade mathematics and science again. You realize you're just not that smart a person as you thought you were. But we're doing good. Those first couple of weeks, you're dealing with it, and then it sets in, the stir crazy. You want to go outside, you want to try to do things. They want to see friends. They want to travel, but you can't do those things. But also, you work through the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then it starts becoming a way of life, and you start adapting to it. But the family's holding up. My kids. Those guys got a lot of energy, and you lock them in a household, they got to get out and do something.
Yeah. So let's go back before this. What do your kids think about you being mayor?
When you first get elected, they thought that was the coolest thing ever. It really wasn't to me. Being mayor is just another elected official. I was already a counselor, but to them, I don't realize how much it meant to them. They have a lot of friends and a lot of adults actually ask them a lot of questions about me. What's it like being a kid of a mayor? Then I just think it's no different. I'm still dad at home. I'm no different. I'm the silly, wacky dad at home. I love taking care of my kids. But they do see the importance, especially going through this exercise. There are times that they realize that, dad is the mayor, and a lot of decisions come through my office. And they're proud. My kids have all said they're proud of me. And it's one of those things before I run. One of the first things I do before I file my paperwork and pay my $100 is I set my children down and I tell them, I'm thinking about doing this for a couple more years because I know it's impactful to the family. But they've not once have they ever complained about me having to spend more time doing my job as mayor. For the most part, it's on cruise control, but here lately it hasn't been. I think my kids, sometimes I think it's really neat when somebody walks up to me in in the mall or at a grocery store and asks me a question. I think it refreshes their memory of it, puts it back in the forefront of their mind that I am the mayor, and then I do have to take care of a lot of people. But I think they like it. I think they really enjoy it.
So speaking of election, when's your next re-election attempt?
November. So in November, I'll file again for this election in November.
We're going to do mail-in ballots for everybody?
I don't know how it's going to work. People asking me all the time. I was like, I don't know. Hopefully, with what we're dealing with now, I think we're going to be okay. But whatever it is, it is. It's going to be a large ballot. We have We have all sorts of races, our local races, our federal races. Bond propositions coming up. We have our charter. Our city charter is going to have 10 questions on it. We had to. It's kind of antiquated. Every so many years you have to refresh your charter. It's just going to be a long ballot. So if having a long ballot and having to be socially spaced, I can imagine that these lines are going to be lengthy in November, out the door and into the cold, I guess. But we're all trying to figure that out right now. I think the city and the county work well together come election time, but it's going to be unique to see with that length of a ballot how we're going to work through this election.
No doubt. All right, so let's catch up over the last couple of weeks or so. They've been a lot of fun for everybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
So last Friday, you and the county judge, you and Judge Gossam made some announcements. Basically, the message was, we're going to try to open everything back up. And here are the rules, and here's what we're trying to accomplish. And judging by the response that's been out over the last few days, I think you said that all Wichitans had to get your face tattooed on their ankle or something, because
it was bad. My order had some intent. I keep talking about the balance in Wichita Falls. We've had the opportunity to do some things a little differently from state recommendations, and then we saw some gray areas within his order that we thought maybe we could live within. Those have been closed up, and we're going to live and abide by the governor's orders. I respect his position. I respect that office more than people realize. But the biggest portion of the order was something that, I don't make the decision by myself. I'm not the all-powerful Wizard of Oz. I just don't wave my wand and all of a sudden I want people to do that. I take a lot of advice from the medical community, from my peers, from legal staff. And, if we're going to open up, a lot more business, they wanted to feel a lot safer, and that's where the face mask came in. Even I am not a huge fan of the face mask, but I think it's incumbent upon me as an elected official to set that aside. A lot of people are talking about you're chipping away at our constitutional rights, our values, our ethics. The First Amendment. People have named every amendment in the book in regards to this face mask, but I'm willing to, as a public official, I'm willing to, as a citizen, as just somebody that is not heartless, to set that aside. I'm not talking about erode it, chip it away, throw it away, give up my rights. I'm willing to set that aside in order to make somebody else feel a little bit safer, or just make our community safer. I think as an elected official, people would want you to do that, would want you to say, all right, I'm gonna put this mask on so I don't get X amount of people sick. So sure. That's where that came from. Of course, that was not well received, and the governor, really clarified it for us. So, we are where we are today.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. And welcome to everyone who's just joined the Pulse, brought to you by American National Bank. I'm Henry Florsheim, President and CEO of the Wichita Falls Chamber of Commerce, and we are here today with Wichita Falls Mayor Stephen Santellana. So Friday, you and Judge Gossam passed these orders, and then on Monday, Governor Abbott basically came out and said, well, hang on, I got a completely different plan. We're going to open up the whole state. We're going to start with retail, restaurants, healthcare, and a few other types of businesses. Immediately following that, Wichita County met, and they said, okay, we're done with our disaster declaration. We're going to follow the state from now on. And then yesterday, what action did you take?
Yeah, once the county rescinds their order, we have to rescind our order. So we rescinded our order and kept in some pieces of our original order and some other pieces where the medical reporting. But we had no choice. Regardless of what I wanted to do, what I think is best for my community. I wanted a more tailored approach for Wichita Falls. I'm not going to be able to do that. It's not saying I don't respect the governor, but I do wish, and I think the business community, you represent the business community. I think the business community wish that he would have done something a little more aggressive or give us back local control. These blanket orders for the state are somewhat bothersome for me in the regards that, Wichita Falls is doing well. I think we can afford to do things differently than an Abilene or maybe a Laredo or a Lubbock that maybe aren't doing as well. But since we did well, since we enacted our order sooner, and since I have a really stellar health department and got some citizenry out there that took it serious, our numbers are really low. Our curve has been flattened. The hospital's not inundated. I think we should be able to reward ourselves, because people just keep thinking about the opening up too soon. But the other part about me losing local control is if we have an outbreak. Let's say I have an outbreak of 20, 30, 40, community spread, my hospital start getting inundated, yet we're at a 25% opening or a 50% opening that the governor says that we can do. I'm not allowed to reel that back in. How am I supposed to tell a restaurant, ignore the governor's orders and shut down because of my community? So the power has been taken away both ways. Now, well, I think there's a lot of common sense with that. And working with the governor's on his wishes. And that's for the business community. That means we're just gonna be waiting a little bit longer. And I know right now, we were talking about this earlier, your hair is looking a little wacky. My hair is looking a little wacky. It's time to get some, the grays are popping out. But we're gonna have to wait, and we're gonna have to wait and see. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing is that all this excitement over the governor's announcement, okay, we're going to open everything back up. And the interesting thing that's happening now is so the rules he's implemented for retail and restaurants, for example, can open up starting Friday, so 2 days from now, but they've got to limit the total occupancy in their place to 25% of the total allowable occupancy by the fire marshal. And we're starting to see restaurants in particular say, no, thanks, I'm not going to do it. It's difficult for them. For a lot of restaurants, it's difficult to police that. And a lot of businesses are not set up to be profitable in a 25% occupancy situation. And so a lot of restaurants I've seen are saying, you know what, we're going to stick to what we're doing now, which is curbside service, takeout, delivery, because they can really decrease their costs when they go that route. They don't need as much staff. They don't need, a lot of their variable costs are not as high as they would be if they had to open the whole restaurant up to customers. And so I'm interested to see how much longer this goes, because it's not going to have the benefit that we all thought it was going to be right off the bat.
No, we talked to lots of restaurant owners when I did the turnaround task force, which is still around. I mean, we have the turnaround task force, and we have Scott Plowman that's basically representing the restaurant community, and we have Brian Hooker that's representing the business community. It's tough for a restaurateur or anybody, to try to live off 25% of their volume. Yeah, and they're trying to tailor this thing, and if the numbers don't work, the numbers don't work. These are smart business people in our community. That's why I just, we had our fingers crossed. We were just thought, maybe the governor was going to open this thing wide open, but safely. I mean, even Wichita Falls, we weren't trying to get wacky. We were trying to open things up, but in a safe manner, because no restaurant, everybody says the exact same things. Scott Plowman said it best. There's no point in me reopening my business and then not making people sanitize, not putting masks on my staff if we're going to have to close because we weren't responsible. Wichita Falls is chock full of responsible citizens. And I think if we kept that responsibleness and that frame of mind, I think we would have been okay. But, 25%, it's tough. It's progress. I think anybody will take it, but not everybody's going to take it. Some people are just, like you said, some people are going to stay closed. And, if that's the case, so be it. And maybe it still might be the case at 50%, where he's saying, mid-May that maybe he'll go to 50% and maybe add on other industries. We'll see. I mean, for me, every week is like a year to this business community. Just people are strapped enough as it is, and a week is a lifetime. It really is.
It is, especially as fast as everything's been changing. We've been keeping our members in the business community up to date on changes, and it seems like every morning there's something else. And I'm getting 100 calls a day from companies saying, well, what's the rule now? What can I do this? And it doesn't stop. And so that's what the business community wants. They just want some clarity. And that's been the biggest problem with the last 6 weeks, is there's been no clarity and constant change. And that's just not good for business. So you've been talking to other mayors around Texas as this has been going on. Tell me about that experience.
It's been neat because you don't have a lot of interaction with other mayors. Once a year, we go down to our yearly conference, and you run to mayors and recognize them, ask them questions. I like speaking to mayors of our sister cities. Right now, Mayor of Abilene, he probably about 3 or 4 times a week reaches out. They started after us. They started getting COVID after us, yet they're having trouble controlling it. It's gone into their health department. It's gone into their fire department, municipal workers. They look to us as, what are you doing different? And I don't know. I don't have those answers. I have some guesses. I can tell you right now, Lou and Amy in our health department are top notch. I think they're some of the best in the industry. I think they're some of the best in the state, and the way they do it, the way when we start reporting, we are requiring, as a city, we're requiring that the medical community reports this. I think that they are doing a fantastic job on the front end. I think we started earlier. I think my citizens, although they don't like some of the rules we have, I think they've taken it serious. We still have the heartache with the Home Depots and the Lowe's and the Uniteds, not calling any business out, but the big box stores. But that's just hard to control. That's really hard to control. So talking to these other mayors, the mayor of Abilene, talked to him at length on Saturday after I did my order. He fully agrees with what we did. But he also says that, his community can't afford to do that right now, although he realizes we can. So there's a lot of times we share, what we're doing, our playbook, if you will. And I think a lot of communities are looking to us right now because we're doing so well. Not saying that we're bulletproof by any means, but what model did you use, Wichita Falls, and what can we do to better ourselves? So we look at each other's websites all the time. I think it's one thing that Darren and I do constantly is I'm constantly going to other websites to see where their numbers are at or what they're doing, what their council is doing, what kind of orders they have. So it's been real neat to talk to mayors of my sister cities as we share information. Here's
the most interesting thing that I've seen, especially politically. Whether you're looking at what the governor's done or what you've done, I've never seen a scenario where people on both sides of the political extremes get mad at you so much at the same time, right? Doesn't matter what you do. At the same time, it was not enough and it was way too much.
That's right.
I'm looking at the comments right now. We're streaming live on Texhoma's homepage on their Facebook page. And I'm reading a comment that says some seriously ignorant comments here from you and me. Okay. I can't accept that. This is somebody's yelling that you're violating everybody's constitutional rights, and
we're all constitutional. It's funny. I did take a lot of constitutional law classes, but we're all constitutional experts these days, and we're all experts in viruses. And, I surround myself by people that are smarter than me. Simple. It's a simple strategy. You never want to be the smartest guy in the room. So when I'm making decisions, I'm not making decisions by myself. You're on these phone calls here. I've got people from Shepherd Air Force Base, 2 or 3 people from the medical community, CEOs, business people, my own staff, a health department, assistants at the health department, people from out of state, all helping me, make these decisions. And you're right. You're not people. I always say it, but people have been saying it for me a lot. Is you're not going to be able to please anybody. So what I have to do is, as at night, I have to be able to. Friday night, people are like, "Oh my gosh, Friday night! How'd you do when you woke up Saturday?" It's like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I make a decision for the city of Wichita Falls, which I think is a good decision for the city of Wichita Falls, and I'm making those decisions on trying to better our community, make our community healthier and financially healthier. That's it. I'm trying to make good decisions. I never have these nefarious, evil decisions that where you're twitching your mustache and you're trying to make these decisions that you think might go bad. Yeah,
right.
We're just not doing that. You don't do that. I don't do that. We're trying to do the best with what we have at the time. And this situation is ever changing. I mean, daily. You know how it is. I mean, holy moly, I feel bad for the business community. I'm part of the business community. My staff, it's changing so rapidly with the information coming in. In the beginning, everybody was just like, you're going to have to hunker down. We enact an order, and all of a sudden I'm killing businesses. Okay. I'm not trying to save lives. I'm killing businesses. Now that things aren't that bad, open businesses back up. Okay, we'll see if we can work towards that. Well, now you're killing people. You're going to be murdering people. Those deaths are going to be on my conscience. They're not. I'm trying to make good decisions. I have surrounded myself by super, super smart, intelligent people, and that's who's helping me govern and helping me make these decisions. So you can't please everybody. You're never going to be able to.
No, exactly.
It's about this thick right now. So
I'm reading some of the message feed on our feed here, and first off, I see Rebecca Rutledge with Deli Planet. They're going to open up Monday, May 4th at 25%. Speaking of not being able to please anybody, on this feed, I've got people saying that instituting the mask rule was ridiculous and that's government overreach. And then I've got people saying that, look, nobody's a fan of wearing a mask, but we've got to be cautious. And so there's no way that you can make everybody happy. But the challenge is just, I think people are looking for some clarity and consistency at some point, and maybe now that the governor has implemented this rule and you in the county have backed off with your orders, maybe we get that. I don't know.
It's tough because I still have to, no matter what, I'm going to fight for our community as hard as I can, because we are Wichita Falls. I'm not we aren't Abilene, we aren't San Angelo, we're not Tyler or Longview. So I'm going to fight hard for our community. If I think the governor's order is reflective and is good for our community, we're going to have zero issue with it. At some point, it might be bad. At some point, we might have an outbreak, and I'm not going to be able to tell restaurants to shut down. It's out of my hands now. It's in the governor's hands. A blanket order for a state our size just doesn't make a lot of sense. So we're going to roll with it, and you're not going to hear any complaints out of me, out of my staff. We're going to go ahead and enact what he said. The county's going to do the exact same thing. But it's when my community's health and financial health start coming in conflict with the governor's orders is where we start having some issues. But we also have representatives that represent us at the state level, and we'll lean on them to be our voice. And, I'm taking care of my 105,000 people here. Woody's taking care of the county. We have state reps, and they do a good job, and they have voices down there, and they're going to take care of us in that sense if it comes to that. But you're right. The mask was such a crazy issue with the unconstitutionality of mask. So be it. I'm worried about the 105,000 people and the elderly population that we have here, the people with comorbidities. Nobody asked me if I was a big fan of the mask. I wasn't a huge fan of the mask, but I'm willing to do it to make sure that the community's safe. I mean, I'm not selfish enough to say I'm just not going to do it. Why should I, infringe upon my constitutional rights for a whopping 3 weeks? So be it. If it makes my community more healthy, I'm willing to set that aside.
For those of you who just joined us, you are watching The Pulse, brought to you by American National Bank and Trust. My guest today is Wichita Falls Mayor Stephen Santellana. Mayor, talk to me about new technologies that you and the city are using that you were not using before. Well,
we've had our first Zoom city council meeting. So, some of those rules have been suspended on the state level in the sense that, I have to have public meetings, I have to have public comment. But we've been able to, because of COVID, been able to use the technology we're using right now. We did ours last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago, or last Tuesday, and it went very well. We ran through it a couple of times before we did it live for the public. The part that I don't like is you don't have that public interaction. I think some counselors like that, to where you won't have you won't have the public, speak back and forth. I enjoy that. I enjoy being challenged on the dais. I really, I'm not a rubber stamp kind of guy. I like saying, hey, we're going to vote on whatever it may be, potholes today or fire trucks. And I want the public to come to these meetings and tell me why we should or shouldn't do that. It's been a lot different because they email their questions and comments in now, and it's a slower pace. But technology has allowed us, everybody's using Zoom. I probably should have bought stock in Zoom. But Zoom and the other outlets that are allowing us to stream and have these meetings, that's been one big thing for us. But it's also it's challenging, but it's also good in the sense that now I'm able to stay at home or stay at my work office and have these meetings, and it's somewhat face to face. I think once you get through the minutia of people not muting themselves or dogs barking in the background or talking over each other, I think we all had those problems. You have these meetings where there's 9 people, and once you start getting that flow, it works a whole lot better.
Sure. Yeah, I know what you mean about the public meetings and interactions with the public. And I've got to say this, Mayor, you have been as open and accessible to people on social media and by email as any mayor I've ever worked with. Do your kids look at rants and raves?
I don't think they do. I don't want them to, just because it might hurt their feelings. What people say, they have. If they don't purposely go, but they'll have a friend. They'll say, "Hey, I saw this comment about your dad." Or these days, people are cropping my face onto other characters. I had one that was actually I thought it was kind of flattering. It was cropped onto Trump's body on a aircraft carrier, and it was a really flattering picture. But they laugh at stuff like that. And a lot of times, Friday evening, my oldest asked me about, hey, Dad, I heard you're getting beat up pretty bad. And I was like, yeah, you make decisions, and you make decisions that affect a lot of people, and people are vocal, and I'm glad they do. I tell everybody it's your God-given constitutional right to say whatever you want against your elected officials. I like to say it with a little nicety. I don't like cursing. I don't like people calling me names or coming after my family. I hate that because they didn't run for the office. But my poor children, sometimes they see things that friends send them, and sometimes they're funny. We can laugh at it. But sometimes I think they get a little worried that I'm getting beat up too much. And I was like, when I first ran for office, I took it hard. Now I'm like, look, at night I place my head on the pillow. I go to sleep easily. If I think I'm doing something that's best for the community, much like you, Henry, if you think you're making a decision and it's best for the community, it's easy to go to sleep at night. But my poor children, and my family beats me up all the time because they see all these things and my sisters are so involved. They just can't stay off rants and raves. But it's good. It's good to get people involved in politics. It's good. People think I hate it. I don't hate it. And sometimes it is the same 10, 15 people that are just, if I gave out $100 in free puppies to everybody, I'd still be the worst guy that ever lived. But I'm fine with that. I've got, we got a community to run, and you need that part of your citizenry too. You need people to challenge the elected officials, I guess.
Yeah, well, you got to have thick skin. My wife can't get on there and read it. I'm a target quite often as well. I don't really care when somebody opens their mouth and says something. Either they're right, in which case, why should I be upset? Or they're wrong, and if they say something rude, it didn't affect me. I'm the same person I was before they said it. They just showed who they are, right? And so I don't care. And I'm like you. I'd rather be accessible to people.
Yeah, and it's a lot of misinformation. I literally, every time I've had somebody come after me, they're just adamant that I'm the worst guy that ever lived, that we all do these crazy, nefarious things, under the table illegal acts. If I could ever get anybody to just have a cup of coffee or go grab a lunch, it takes about 20 minutes for them to have that aha moment, like, whoa, I think I had this wrong the whole time. You did, because you're just getting pieces and snippets of information given to you by other people's rant and rave or people of the citizen advocates, just little snippets. If you ever got the full picture, or if you sat in my seat and had to sit through 20 hours worth of meetings to see why we're voting on a hotel or meet, it's not just hours, it's days and it's weeks and years of information that we're receiving, the reason we make these decisions. I was just like those citizens before I was an elected official. I was no different. I would take the little bitty snippets I get, those 5-second clips you see on KFDX and KUZ. I would take that and I'd make a decision. And I can't believe the mayor would do that. I can't believe the commissioner would do that, or the Chamber of Commerce president. But why would he do that? I didn't know the whole backstory. But if I can ever sit down, and I can't sit down with 104,000 people, but anybody that really challenges me, there's 3 or 4 out there. I just wish they would just sit down. Well, me, you both. We get beat up a lot.
Yeah. Well, John Denton is one of the guys he's been posting on the stream here. You and I had both reached out to John after he had made some comments on Facebook about, hey, let's just talk. And even when we have conversations like that with somebody that was on the other side of an issue at first, just having coffee or lunch makes it easier the next time there's a disagreement. So we're gonna adjourn here for a minute due to our TV broadcast schedule. And when we come back, we're going to ask some personal questions of you, Mayor. You're watching The Pulse, sponsored by American National Bank and Trust. All right, so I've had your cooking before, and somebody else mentioned it in the thread a little bit ago. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, beans and rice, and it's actually called arroz con pollo. So it's my mother's. I'd say it's a family recipe. So beans. Nobody makes homemade tortillas anymore. I think I call them the fake ones. Have gotten so good that you almost don't have to make them. But arroz con pollo and enchiladas is something I like to cook. My mom was cooking it for all of the children for their birthdays and celebrations, anniversaries. She has since, not able to do that as much. So I want to take that over. So that's one of my favorite things to cook. One, it's part of my heritage. I'm not the most Hispanic guy ever, but I like cooking that. So I can kind of keep that part of my heritage. And it's one of those things that when you taste authentic Hispanic and Mexican food, I think it really shocks people sometimes. Much like you with, I can remember one time eating like a gumbo or a jambalaya or something that I thought was delicious, and then you ate it and you're like, that's nothing like it's supposed to taste like. So it's horrible with you.
Yeah. So Hoagie Jackson posted, he said he didn't want coffee, he wants an ice cold beer, and then he just called my cell phone. Hoagie, I'm on the air right now.
Hoagie's one of those. I like guys like Hoagie and John Denson. John Denson, they challenge me and they challenge you. They're willing to listen. I will never agree on 100% of their things. Never agree. But they're one of the few people now that will reach out privately and ask for the facts. They ask for the facts. You tell them, after I give you the facts, do what you want with them. If you still don't agree with me, I don't care. All I ask is that you at least listen to the facts. John's about 80-20. 20% of the time he's like, I still don't agree with you. Hoagie beats me up all the time, and I don't mind it. We just have a different train of thought, and that's government. That's politics. That's the way things should work.
Well, the good thing about having lunch or coffee or an ice cold beer with somebody like Hoagie is that you tear down those barriers, right? And we did that a lot during the election season in May of 2018. Because there was so much back and forth and a lot of personal attacks. And yeah, you just find that, it's easy to remember that, okay, we're both people, right? We may never agree on anything, but my gosh, if we can at least remember that we're people and we've all got kind of the same goals in mind, then,
yeah,
and it makes the whole thing a little bit easier.
And that's why I like being accessible. It's funny. Actually, it's flattering to me, and I really enjoy it when a citizen says to you, wow, I can't believe you called me back, or wow, I can't believe you answered me. They're not used to that accessibility. Now, it does open us up, you and I both, it does open us up for a lot of attacks in the sense that people know that we will, I'm not always looking at the citizen advocate page or rants and raves. I do work. I have to make a living and feed my children. So in my free time, sometimes I can go to that, or if somebody sends me that. But it's neat to sometimes see those things coming on, and I don't enjoy the attacks. I really don't. But I can see why people do. I enjoy the process. I enjoy that people are actually engaged in government, whatever it may be, potholes, fire trucks, groundhogs. I mean, it's just so many different things. And right now it's COVID and how we respond to it. Every single one of us is in the spotlight right now. Every single politician, city leader. I mean, in times of emergency management, it plops in the government's in the governor's lap, and it plops in the mayor's lap, and our county judge, and we're asked to make some incredible decisions on the fly. And we will not. That's why I always preface everything. This document, this order is not perfect, but I will change as many times until I get it perfect for our community. I say that because I'm imperfect, and I know that things are changing and moving so fast. I don't have time to get a lot of information. The speed of government is usually at a slow pace for a reason. The speed of government is at a slow pace because we try to get things right and then present it, and then we're the public policy piece. We're the piece that votes on it. But in time emergency management, you get that long, and you have to start making decisions that affect your citizenry. That's why I like that they're living documents that can be changed, and we'll make it right. If face masks aren't good, and the governor doesn't want it, we'll change it. We'll change it, and we'll try to get it right for our community. If we start seeing a lot more COVID go up, we're going to change our behavior 2 or 3 different directions, different ways. We just know that right now, as politicians, and Henry, I love that you're just like me. You're engaging, but that comes with the price, and I think you know that as well as I do.
Yeah. So the governor basically said the same thing. If you watched his announcement, he announced what he was doing this Friday, which was freeing up certain types of businesses to operate in a certain capacity. And then he mentioned phase 2, which I believe would take effect no earlier than May 18th. But that's just, that date you could just pick any random date, because it's all going to depend on what happens. There's a long time between now and May 18th. I mean, how many memes did we see about March being the longest year we've ever had? Right now, we're at the end of April, and the same thing's going on. And so March 18th is another 3 weeks from now. I mean, yeah. May 18th, another 3 weeks from now. And so there's no telling what's going to happen. We could see a nosedive in cases, or it could really ramp up, and we just don't know. And every community is going to be different. And so it's just nuts right now. This is the craziest debate that we will ever see in our lifetime, I imagine, because there's so many people on all sides of this argument, and none of us can predict the future. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens over the coming weeks and months. So what do you miss the most that you can't do that you could do 6 weeks ago?
I like to travel, mini trips. I enjoy taking mini trips, grabbing my kids and going to wherever it may be for a weekend. I really miss that. In citizen interaction, we're both group speakers. It's probably one of the favorite parts about this job. I'm a public policy guy. I love the public policy, but the second part of that is I love speaking to citizens in large groups. I love giving speeches, grabbing people's attention, the back and forth. Right now, when I'm sitting in an empty room right now. I'm an interaction kind of guy, and it's almost disturbing that I can't get that. So if it's on the family side, it's our special little trips that we take to de-stress. And on the mayor side, on my other side, I really do miss going to Louis and talking to whatever group it may be, or just getting out there and giving a speech right now it would be the school circuit, giving commencement speeches and talking to kids. I love going to elementary schools and talking to kids. Haven't been able to do that, so you kind of yearn for that. So hopefully we can get past this, because I really do want to get back to that.
Yeah, gotcha. It's been pretty good for me because I don't like people, so I can just stay home.
You've been training for COVID your whole life.
Yes. What do you think is going to happen next week?
Oh gosh, I'm almost a day-to-day right now. A lot of people.
What do you think is going to happen tonight?
Tonight. I mean, that's a more appropriate question, because I don't know. I've been making predictions and they just haven't been coming true. That's everything. I'm predicting how my citizens are going to react to an order. Predicting how we're going to change their behavior, predicting what schools are going to do, predicting what the governor is going to do, predicting what Woody's going to do. So it's day to day. I'm in constant contact with my staff. I mean, Darren Liker has been a godsend. I would say he's the best city manager in the state of Texas. I'm blessed to have a city manager like that, and I'm blessed to have a staff that stands behind him, because I just don't know. I mean, right now we're looking at numbers. I mean, this is budget season, and things aren't going to look pretty for Wichita Falls. The good thing is we're Wichita Falls, and we're going to adapt, and we're going to figure out a way to continue to run things and not affect services as much. But there's tough times. I may almost make no predictions. I mean, people, you get the calls. When am I going to be able to open up? When am I going to be able to do this? Do you think I could do this? Man, I don't know. It's day to day, week to week. I want the summer to come here. I hope this people keep saying 100-degree weathers will kill whatever. Come on. I mean, I hope we have 100 days of 100-degree weather, and we'll just bring it on.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I get calls every day from somebody that I know their business is not going to be able to open up yet. And it's for a small business owner, this is just hard. And so whether it's tonight or next week or next month, it's hard to predict. And so I'm like you. We've been playing this day by day. There's been so many changes that we've been trying to stay on top of it. Got a message from Darren Coates with the Texas Blood Institute. Just wants to remind everybody that with us opening back up and trying to get to normal as hospitals get back to having surgeries, the blood supply, which has been dwindling because not as many people are getting out to donate, it's going to be even worse. And so getting out to donate blood is going to be extremely important. You mentioned Darren Liker a minute ago. Who else have you seen, whether it's at the city or out there in the business community, that has really gone above and beyond since all this started?
Oh, God bless. I want to say our nonprofit community, people that there's been so many people that just stepped up in the need. But our nonprofit community is one of the first people that, from some of the first people that have called, trying to do anything they could. Literally, I've had so many calls from people that I never would receive calls from before, just saying I do everything I could. But if I just say one person that stuck out in my mind, I would say Lou Kreidler. I mean, holy moly. The citizens should be writing her thank yous. I get all these we're praying for you, and we're glad you're our leader during a time like this. And I want to tell them, I'm just a vessel. I'm a vessel for the advice that they give. And Lou works so hard. The reason Wichita Falls is in such a good place is we have a health district and a medical community that have basically gone above and beyond what they're supposed to do. They're innovative, and they work hard. I mean, they work so hard. So I think I would say Lou and her staff, above and beyond. And then my legal staff, COVID questions at wichitafalls.tx. I mean, it's wichitafallstx.gov. We had our city attorneys here, 3-4 city attorneys sitting here working all hours of the night, 7 days a week in the very beginning. Every time I do an order that might be controversial or has a lot of questions from the business community, I was receiving these calls. You were receiving these calls. I mean, you were like me. At what point do you turn your phone off? Now I send them to the city attorneys, and they answer the questions. A lot of people are surprised. I got replies back. Wow, I submitted my question, and within minutes, I had a response from the city attorney. I'm like, fantastic, because I'm not the legal piece. I don't want to answer a question if I don't know if it's appropriate or not. But the city attorney, Darren Liker, Lou, our local pastors, I mean, just a lot of people have really stepped up because they realize that it's time to step up. A lot of people put their family to the side, their business to the side, and have just, come. My counselor at the very beginning, Counselor 5, Steve Jackson, man, he went out there raising money and getting food cans together for his elderly population, helping the food bank. That's all great. I mean, a lot of people are. I wouldn't say just one or two people. There's a lot of people stepping up to that.
Yeah. Jason White asked a question on our Facebook page. He wants to know what's your next non-COVID priority for the city?
Budget. Like I said, that might be COVID related, but our budget. I mean, this is going to be a tough budget year. I tell our counselors 6 to 8 months out of the year are budget related ish, and then there's 3 months that are just straight budget. We're about to see why we get paid all that great money. It's because we're going to be diving into budget that it's going to be tough. Everybody's in the same situation. Every city's in the exact same situation. Every state is the exact same situation. I want to be that city that comes out not smelling like roses, but the responsible city. We've been so responsible in the past that we can afford to do some other things, but that's why I breathe easy knowing that I have a Darren Liker behind me, I have a Blake Yurchek, and I have a Paul Menzies. I have Jessica that does our finances. I breathe a lot easier knowing that I got those smart people telling us what direction we have to go. The Russell Schreibers of the world. We're going to do what we have to for Wichita Falls. There are cities right now that are having to lay people off. There are cities that are looking at what they have saved and are looking very good. We have been so responsible as a city in the past because we've been planning for a time just like this. And we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. So once all COVID has passed us, I can't imagine anything but the budget, to tell you the truth. And it doesn't mean we don't work on the rest of the city work, but we just, I like the business development. I love working with the chamber. That's some of my favorite things. I just don't know if we're gonna have that ability. I don't know. I mean, I might have to set that all on your plate completely and let you the 4A and the 4B and let them do what they can, because I just think it's going to be a tough year.
We got it. So I've got a question from Texoma's homepage, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but if gyms are opened up on May 18th, like the governor projected, do you know what kind of restrictions there would be to allow people to get back exercising?
We're going to take a lot of, depending on what the governor says, but for our local community, former counselor Brian Hooker owns some Planet Fitnesses. He has a 90-page document kind of outlining what their future looks like. But social distancing and cleanliness, I mean, those are two things that everybody's going to have to do. You're going to have to distance yourself, and then you're going to have to just keep continually sanitize. I just don't see how gyms are going to be able to operate when the shoulder to shoulder anymore. Maybe further down in the future, just not in the immediate future. So it's tough to say, and I think they're going to come out with some guidelines. The CDC will come out with guidelines. The state will come out with some guidelines, and we'll try to follow those guidelines.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you binge watching anything right now?
Yes, I just watched Waco. Have you ever seen Waco? It's about the Branch Davidians and David Koresh. It's a different perspective of what you were taught. So that was during my high school days, into my college days. So it kind of gives you a different perspective of what might have happened out there. So I watched that. I during COVID, you're running to literally, what haven't I watched and what haven't you watched? I mean, I watched every series and I caught up on everything. I was that same guy reaching out on Facebook. Hey, well, recommend something. If I got 3 things recommended, you're watching them, because you're kind of stuck at home doing your COVID thing. But I really enjoyed this Waco one. And there was another, Ozarks. I enjoyed Ozarks. It's a little dark sometimes, but I enjoy those things.
Yeah, we've been watching. So this whole thing, lockdown, kind of coincided with my exposure to our Fire Stick and Amazon Prime, because we've got Netflix, and so I've always watched on Netflix. But Kimberly's got an Amazon Prime account because she orders 1,700 things a week from Amazon. And so for some reason, right when we got stuck at home, I started browsing Amazon Prime. And I could not believe how many old shows, the series they have on there. And so we've watched Dukes of Hazzard, Beverly Hillbillies, Columbo, shows I've never seen before.
You're aging yourself, Henry.
I had never seen Columbo before. I had heard of it. And so the 2 we've actually settled, we're watching 3 every night. We watch 3 shows now. Kitchen Nightmares, because we love Gordon Ramsay, but we've seen that before. But then next is the Rockford Files with James Garner. I had never seen it before, had heard of it, never seen it. We're in season 2 and it's awesome. And then every night we close out with at least one episode of Bob Ross and the Joy of Painting. And I tell you what,
when did Bob Ross become popular again? My kids are all about Bob Ross socks, posters. I got some candy the other day. They had Bob Ross, but I was like, Bob Ross was mind-numbing to me, but to them, my son was at some point was just falling asleep to watching Bob Ross paint trees and landscapes.
It's hilarious.
Bob Ross get cool again.
Yeah, it's like a television Valium or something. It just relaxes you, and it's just him talking about happy little trees, and it is the weirdest dynamic. But we've started watching it every single night, at least one episode at the end of the night, and it just gets you ready to go to bed.
I think I'm gonna start doing that. I never really, because you start running out of modern things to watch. I guess it doesn't hurt to go back and watch some of the oldies. Did you say the Beverly Hillbillies? Because that's in black and white. So that is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So our youngest, Callie, she's 8, and one day she came in and she said, "Daddy, I want to watch that Gray show you watched yesterday." I'm like, "What are you talking about, that Gray show?" And it took me a couple minutes to figure out that's black and white. That Gray show, I should have known.
Yep.
So just had a question from Michael Hernandez on Texoma's homepage. He asked if you watched The Tiger King.
Of course I watched The Tiger King. Marissa, my fiance, she started the first episode, and I was like, I'm not intrigued. You saw the Facebook feeds and everybody. I'm just not intrigued at all. Loosely watched it as in the kitchen, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is strange, but I'm slightly intrigued. Next episode comes on, I'm hooked like everybody else. I'm on that couch. I didn't want to miss it. I've watched every episode. I know we have in Burke Burnett, you got one of the characters lives in Burke, but I'm talking about you felt weird after watching this series, but you're like, that actually happened. I mean, that's in the U.S. and it's entertaining by all means. But it's funny about Tiger King. It doesn't matter if you're old or young, if you're conservative or not. Everybody watched the Tiger King. I mean, everybody watched the Tiger King.
We can all come together around the fact that was the biggest car wreck in TV history.
But it came at the right time. I mean, everybody had to watch something.
Joe Exotic was the hero we needed when we needed it. The good thing about it for us living here in Wichita Falls is that we can look 15 minutes to the north and say, that's Oklahoma.
That's Oklahoma. That's right.
All right. So Penny Miller says, wash your mouth out, Mayor. You made a joke about a drought, right? She says, please, not another drought.
Oh yeah. I thought I said something bad. No, I bring the drought up a lot because it's neat to be part of this community. I knew Henry. I don't know, how long have you lived here now?
Going on 7 years.
7 years. So 7 years part of our community. You've seen a lot too. But when you're a lifetime member of this community, it's cool to say, I'm the mayor of Wichita Falls, and we've been kicked in the teeth a lot of times, but it's neat to see us get back up, join together, even with our differences. Even people that have our differences, it's just neat to be part of this community because we've had a long history of things that have happened to us. And we still keep on chugging. And I know past COVID, we're gonna be fine. Wichita Falls is gonna be fine.
So speaking of that exact point, Amanda Sandoval asked the question, do you actually believe that COVID will ever really be behind us?
I think so, because once they start coming with a vaccine, I mean, it's just like the flu or any other thing, right now we don't have the immunities to it. Maybe you need that herd immunity that they talk about. But, we're always going to be cognizant of it. Just like the drought, we trained ourselves. We water our grass differently. We conserve water differently. I don't know if I'm going to ever go back to just shaking everybody's hands like I used to. I don't know if I will dive into public pools like I used to. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy being at a concert, shoulder to shoulder, and somebody coughs around me. I just don't know. I think we've changed our mentality. We've changed our behavior to the point that I think we're going to change our community all together. But be behind us. It's going to be with us forever. I just think we'll feel more comfortable as the years go on. Once a vaccine is everybody gets their flu vaccine and gets their COVID vaccine, I think we'll be better off as a community. We'll feel a lot more comfortable.
So Jason White and Dylan Sander have a very important question. They want to know if you think Carol Baskins killed her husband.
I do think Carol Baskins killed her husband. I'm sorry, Carol. But much like the rest of the citizenry that they attack us, I don't have all the facts. Now, from what was presented to me, yeah, it kind of leans that way. But I got snippets. If I got to practice what I preach, I just caught snippets. So I don't know. The jury's still out. But I literally haven't found anybody that says that they didn't think that she did kill her husband. So
could you imagine being her criminal mastermind and the stupid show comes out and all of a sudden people are investigating her?
God bless. I mean, it's. I couldn't imagine being her. Sometimes I feel like the pressure that she got is on us. But yeah, I couldn't imagine being Carol Baskins.
So looking back over the last 6 weeks, what would you do differently?
Oh my gosh. To tell you the truth, I'd get more rest. I almost had I've told this story to a couple of people, and I guess I'll tell it to the whole public. I went out to get a couple of items from Walmart one time and looked down at a piece of paper that I had written, and it looked like Greek to me, and I knew it was my handwriting. I knew there were ingredients. I didn't know what it was ingredients for. Although I just made the meal a couple hours previous, and I was just getting some extras to make. I was basically making food and delivering it to my family and friends. And I guess the lack of sleep. I went to my brother-in-law's house. He took my blood pressure, my sugar. He did everything he could to figure out what was wrong with me medically, because I was like, I felt like I was walking around in a dream. And his recommendation was go home and sleep. I went to bed like 8 o'clock at night, got 12 hours of sleep. I woke up crystal clear. So he's like, lack of sleep really can play wonders on you. So if anything, I would take it a little bit easier. I was trying to take too much on too quick. And you can make better decisions on a well-rested mind. But other than that, I think there's not a lot you could change in the situation. It's so fast moving. You don't have time to put a lot of thought into your decisions. You're just trying to make good decisions.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody thinking about running for public office?
I just don't do it. I mean, I'm just kidding. If you're gonna run for public office, I always encourage people that want to run for public office. You're gonna have to give 100%. A lot of people think public office is not a lot. It's voting on potholes, but there's a ton that goes into it. You can be as involved or not involved as you want to be. We've had mayors that are extremely involved, retirees that can give it all. Somebody like me that tries to give all their spare time and then some. And then you have mayors that just won't do very much. But if you're going to get involved in public office, do the citizenry justice and be involved. I mean, it's a lot. It can be a lot. Don't be a part-time anything, whether that's a county commissioner or a mayor or a counselor. Be a full-time and be representative. But it's tough. I get asked that a lot. I've had last 5 years, so many people come to me, hey, I'm thinking about running for office. Tell me about it. And I'll tell them the good and the bad, and you're going to have to weigh both of them. But also the worst piece about it is you're a public official. So everything you do in your life, every contract I have, anything I go through in my personal life is in the public eye. And that was disturbing to me, but I think it's the right of the people. I really do. I think people deserve to know almost everything about me. There are things I tell them, my family's off hands. My kids, don't ask me questions about my children. They didn't run for this office. Don't ask me personal questions about my life that, I just don't think that, I like to keep some things personal, but you are a public official, and every record, everything you do is out there, and you just have to be prepared for that. But it's a lot of times I think people think it's a lot of speech giving. I love that piece of it. But it's like me, I love the public policy piece. I love knowing that this town has been open since 1800 and something for 365 days, 24/7. We've never shut down. That's kind of cool to see so many people, 1,200 employees, keeping this wheel going is really cool to me. But if you're going to run for office, I hope that somebody would do it seriously with 100%, because that's what the citizens deserve.
You're watching The Pulse, brought to you by American National Bank and Trust. John Campbell asked a question about what are the plans for graduation. And I don't know if you've heard anything. I was on a call with Mike Kurt earlier today, and they have not made a decision yet. They're still monitoring the situation and trying to come up with some options. Have you heard anything recently?
Yeah, City View has submitted a plan, and Mike Kurt has submitted a plan to where they can do the social spacing. That probably will be fine. I think it'll pass what the governor's wishes and the city and county and the health department's wishes are. Once Mike finalizes that, gives us a final plan, I think we can make the determination. It's going to be tough. I mean, you're limiting all your family. It'll be the student, maybe mom and dad. That's all that our biggest venue could probably hold if you had to socially space everybody properly. And then you have the logistics of not just sitting down and being socially spaced, but the logistics of entering the building socially spaced and it was socially distanced, and exiting the building with social distancing. So you're not having that crowd mentality. So there are some logistical problems and challenges with that, but if anybody can handle it, I think Mike Kurt and City View Superintendent could probably handle it.
Sure. So Aaron Alejandro asked a question. What are some things you're excited about in Wichita Falls, which we may have a chance to capitalize on coming out of the COVID chaos?
That's a good question. I know Aaron would ask a question like that. I know Aaron.
Very thoughtful question from Aaron.
He's always about capitalize on it, but that's where I get my. No matter what happens in your community, you have to think of something positive that comes out of it. I was just speaking to my staff about that. Even they're like, how can anything be positive out of COVID? I was like, well, how about the fact that we're doing better than other cities that have a health department? I think anything that we can capitalize on would be the basically the better educational piece that we're going to have out of this. Our PIO office, Lindsay Barker, has done a fantastic job, and her staff. We often find ourselves tripping because we don't educate enough. We don't get enough information out fast enough into one. And to almost, we'll say I'll use your tag on the pulse here. It's almost one pulse for this whole community. So anything coming out of that is we now have a better collaboration. We sometimes are separate, but this has been something that when we sit on these conference calls, and Henry, you're on these calls a lot, you're just hearing one voice for the community, not the county, not the city, not the chamber, and not the ISD, but we all are coming out as Wichitans. I know we had the exact same situation in the 79 tornado, Wichitans helping Wichitans. I think we're going to have that coming out of this also.
And I will tell Aaron, there's still a lot of economic development activity going on. We're having calls daily with site consultants and prospects that are still trying to move forward with projects because there's a lot of business out there that's still doing well. And so the ones that were trying to do projects before, they're still working on it. And so we hope that quite a bit of our business recruitment strategy will hold true, and we'll just keep pushing forward. Who's your mentor?
I have a lot of men. My father, for one. I've learned so many life lessons from my father. He's a hard-working, smart individual. When I say things like surround yourself by people that are smarter than you, that comes from my father. It comes directly from my father. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. The previous mayor, Glenn Barham, has given me a lot of direction sitting in this position. I am not perfect by any means, and I think people know that. But he has been a pretty good mentor in the sense that he's allowed me to grow with him while he was on council and even post that. When it comes to public policy and city government, Darren Liker for sure. I lean on Darren a lot because if you can just see his kind of mentality. He's a very, very sharp individual, probably one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met. But it's his mentality and how you can't really get a rise out of Darren. He sees what's in front of him. It's a challenge, and he's going to work through it no matter what. I'm kind of the emotional piece. I'm all over the place, and it seems like I'm, sucking down caffeine all day, and I got a lot of energy. I like Darren. He balances me out because a lot of times I get excited about things that are happening. He's a good balance. But there's just so many mentors out there, a lot of good professors out there. I've had a lot of good clergy that guide me still. I like asking advice. Sometimes you find yourself drifting away from that when you're in business life or when you're in this public eye. It doesn't hurt every now and then to ask a priest or a preacher to kind of give you a little bit of guidance. Sometimes you quit thinking about that religious piece when you're moving in life. But I do think that as far as mentors, if I had to name one, it would be my father. He's been an incredible influence in my life, and continually. I work every day with my dad. I am so blessed to work with my father, and he's just given me so many life lessons. He's a cool dude. I wish everybody in the world could meet my dad. Everybody says the same thing. He's so quiet. I was like, he is. He's like the coolest guy you ever meet in your life. He really is.
He's quiet?
He's quiet.
Where did you come from?
I have no idea.
All the time.
He's got no room to talk. If you're at a dinner table with me, that's why he's so quiet. You can't interject anything with me. If I'm trying to recap my day, you might as well just eat your food and then go home because you're not going to get 2 words in. We're
going to wrap up at 4 o'clock. We got just a couple more questions left. Do you see a silver lining coming out of all this?
Absolutely. I mean, if you had to be a positivity breeds positivity guy like me, it's basically becoming a community. It's the rebirth of Wichita Falls as Wichitans. The silver lining is we've learned so many things through this process. I've learned, I've grown. All my counselors learned and grown. All my staff has learned and grown. The health department, the hospitals, as a nation, we're stronger. I think as this was a worldwide pandemic, we're stronger. I think it's really brought to the forefront in all of our minds of what could happen, not to just your own community, but to the state, to the nation, and to the world if you don't pay attention, if you don't do things correctly. So I think if anything coming out of positive out of all this, it's the fact that we've banded together strongly as a community. We might not agree on everything. We might disagree on some things, but I look forward to being past COVID. I look forward to seeing where our community is going to grow from here, because I think we have some exciting times still before us. Truthfully, I just can't wait to get there.
If you got one message for the people of Wichita Falls, what would it be?
Right now, social distance and keep your 6 feet, stay sanitized, and stay positive. Positivity breeds positivity. So Claire Kowalik, she beats me up about it all the time because I say it, but it just remains true. You're never going to be able to progress yourself as a person or a community if you can't stay positive. You can't interject some positivity. Negativity is cancerous, and I refuse to let negativity breed the city down. Sure, this is a hiccup. It's a big one. It's a hurdle. It's something that's impacted us. It punched us all in the gut. But we're going to come out of this strong. So Wichitans, I said it before my last council meeting, stay positive, keep your heads up. Good times are still before us. We are Wichita Falls, and right around the corner are the good times, and we'll be back at basketball games and football games cheering. Sports is, I'm going to speak as a guy, I know you, other than the Michael Jordan story that's been coming out, man, it's been tough. So sports are right around the corner. We're a sports community. I think all our small communities around us are sports communities. I think we're all waiting for that day. So if you act responsibly, we can get back to where we were.
Yeah, I tell you what, one of my brother-in-laws is a UT guy, and he took me down to the Texas LSU game this year. Go Tigers. And so the payback was going to be that I was taking him to Baton Rouge this fall because Texas plays LSU in Baton Rouge in September. And I'm just dying here thinking about the fact that college football may not happen this season. Yeah. That is unfathomable to me.
Do you ever think, though, that maybe we needed this pause? I mean, I think sometimes we live in such a fast-paced society. We're just blowing and going, and things. Financially, I don't like that oil's down. I don't like that economics is our economy is where it is. But man, maybe this is just a good time for us to all sit back and if anything's positive, we've all gotten closer to our families. You sit in your house with your kids. You get to know them a little bit better. But it's been a good pause. But I think we're all ready for to take our finger off the pause button and hit play.
I think you're right. And if college football doesn't happen this fall, that just means that LSU is going to be the national champion 2 in a row.
I don't hate that they won, because there are a lot of LSU people in Wichita Falls. I hate that you're such a big fan and they won, because I haven't been able to catch a break since. And you're right. If they don't play again, they're going to be 2-time national champions by default.
We'll take it. Best season ever. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today on The Pulse. We've got a lot of our Chamber of Commerce colleagues from around the country that tuned in to watch this show because they're considering doing similar things in their community. So I think we showed Wichita Falls in a very good light to them today. That's it for today's edition of The Pulse. Thank you, Mayor Stephen Santellana, for joining us, and to our sponsor, American National Bank and Trust. This show can be found on the Chamber's Facebook page and on KJTL Fox 18 Sunday at 5:30. Join us next Wednesday with my guest, WFISD Superintendent Mike Kurt. We'll see you then.